approve the bid.
And I know this is going to be a little bit difficult with the Zooms. Y'all may have to help a little bit on this one, but was that Frank making the motion,
Yes.
seconded by Kenny?
Yes.
Correct. Okay, perfect. All right, so all those in favor?
Aye.
Perfect. And those opposed? All right, so the motion passes unanimously. The next item is approval of minutes from the last meeting on February 2nd, 2023. Do we have a motion to approve those, or do we have a motion?
I move that we approve the minutes from the last meeting.
Okay, thank you, Frank. Do we have a second?
I'll abstain since this is my first meeting on BCA.
Perfect, okay. So Celia, I can second that motion?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so I'll second the motion. Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? Okay, so that, technically, I don't know, is that, Celia, is that enough to approve those minutes, or do we need to put that on the next meeting?
We'll move it to the next meeting, just so we can have a majority.
Okay, so let's table that, with Kenny being, newly appointed to the board, and, then we'll move on to the next item on the agenda. And so that's public hearing for, appeal status of Family Fence LLC, use of 135 Kelly Drive is a permitted non-conforming use. Is there a public comment or discussion on that item?
Would you like to open the public hearing?
Yes, can we open the public hearing?
Do you have a preference in who goes first? Would you like the applicant to go first?
Yeah, that sounds good, Celia, please.
Can she hear me through this microphone too? Or am I better off? Well, I mean, if she's hearing you, she's hearing me.
Yes, I wish you could
So,
hear.
okay. And Ms. Barnwell, just to let you know, this is Blair Stoudemire speaking as the applicant on this. So the reason we filed this is that section 700.1, which we think is the applicable section of the zoning ordinance in this particular case, specifically 700.1 A, B, C, and D, is what is being used by Family Fence Company to use and maintain the structure and storage that they say is being used for their business at 135 Kelly Drive. In doing a little research on this, I have concerns that this does not comply with the ordinance. And the main reason is 700.1A says if a use which is a non-conforming use is discontinued for a period of 365 days, the non-conforming use's exception shall expire, and the non-conforming use may not thereafter be resumed. I am not alleging that Family Fence Company has discontinued the non-conforming use. What I'm saying is that back in 2018, the then zoning director for the city of Walhalla received a complaint about this non-conforming use. From the documents I've received from the city, it looks like what was done is that Miss Cindy Rotano came and spoke with the zoning director and simply stated, we purchased that property from College Street Baptist Church. They were previously using it for the storage of their church bus and maybe some other either church vehicles or church equipment that they had, and we purchased it from them and started using it for storage of our fence materials. And that sale took place, by my research, that sale took place and was finalized in 2017. My concern is when you go back behind that, and I do not think the last zoning director went behind that. And when you go behind the sale of that, College Street now owns property. The question I had is, well, if they were storing their church bus there and they're not storing it there and other equipment there, then they've got to be storing it somewhere else. So as we all know, College Street Baptist Church purchased some land adjacent to them some years ago, and they purchased land on South Catherine Street from Annette Neville Clark et al. Back in 1991, and in 2007 they purchased 401 South College Street, the front part of that same plot of land, from Kit Hughes, and that sale was finalized in 2007. Sometime around that time, as we all know, Miss Hughes passed away, and of course her house subsequently that was on that 401 South College, that house was moved to another location. Thereafter, College Street went ahead and started improvements on that land, paving that land, putting up various things there, and they moved all of their equipment over there. That was done prior to 2017. So my argument is essentially that even when the land was purchased by the Ratanos in 2017, it had not been being used for storage for some years prior to the sale of that. And with it not being used for some years prior to that sale, I think that 700.1 subsection A applies, that use had been discontinued for more than 365 days and should not therefore be allowed to resume. In addition to that, if you look at the nonconforming use, even if the committee does not agree with me on that, they have expanded the use of that building and that property beyond simply the storage of materials. In fact, Family Fence Company is no longer just Family Fence Company. They now have, and by their own website, they now have Dog Watch Fence by Family Fence Company. Now, I have not been able to find on Family Fence's website an address for Dog Watch Fence. So I don't know if they're storing materials for that particular business there or not. I do not know that the city has been out to 135 Kelly Drive and done an on-site inspection to see what is actually being done there, whether it is just storage or whether it's more than that. What I can tell you is that frequently throughout the day and throughout the weeks, we will hear at our house, which basically our property backs up to the back end of 135 Kelly Drive and to 328 North Pine, we will hear hammering, sawing of metal, things like that, things which I equate to actually working with the fence materials to prepare them for installation, as opposed to simply the storage of materials and transportation of them to a job site. So from my end, I think work beyond just storage is being done there. The only continuing use that was put forth by College Street was simply the storage of a vehicle or maybe some other equipment. And from my end, we've gone beyond that. I don't have anything against Ms. Rotano. I don't have anything against Family Fence Company. By all accounts, they've got a good reputation and they do good work. And if they simply store the materials there, then that's one thing. But they're doing more than just storing the materials there. What I would ask is that their non-conforming use at this time be suspended, and what I would like to see the city do, frankly, is go ahead and investigate that site, see if there's work being done there other than simply the storage of materials. If there is, then that's a problem. Also, I think we need to go back in time to see when this land was conveyed and when did College Street Baptist Church, if anyone knows, when did they exactly stop the use of using that 135 Kelly Drive for the use of the storage of their vehicle and other equipment. I don't know if y'all have any questions of me, but and I know that the fact that Family Fence has had a business license since 1996, I firmly understand that. I don't think that comes into play here. I don't think that comes into play with regard to a non-conforming use. No question they've had a business license. Whether or not they need to have another business license for dog watch, I'll leave that up to somebody else. When they pay taxes at 135 Kelly Drive, certainly that is taxed at the corporate rate. I've looked that up with the county, no question about that. 328 North Pine Street that they say is Family Fence Company, it looks like that's being taxed at the residential rate. So I don't know if that needs to be taxed at the corporate rate or not. I know that's not necessarily before this board. But again, the crux of my issue and the reason for my appeal was that we do have noise coming from there at various hours of the day. I do not believe that the noise constitutes any violation of a noise ordinance. I don't think that applies. Certainly, I don't think they've expanded the use beyond the structure that was already there. What it comes down to is I don't think that property's been in continuous use for the purpose of storing materials since the 1980s, before this ordinance was enacted, which I think was 1994. And I don't think that initially Family Fence showed properly to the zoning and the then not the current zoning board or commissioner, but the then zoning commissioner, I don't think did a sufficient investigation to see whether that non-conforming use was continuing or whether it was stopped at some period of time. The notes that I received only say that they had a conversation with a representative of College Street Baptist Church, and they said, yes, we started using that in 1989 for storage of the church bus, and it was probably in use there for some years before. They didn't ask when it ended. They didn't ask when the church bus was moved, and I think that is very pertinent to what the board decides today. Thank you.
Thank you, Claire.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
just for clarification, the 700 number that he was referencing, that is from the ordinance. In your packet, we have recently had a codification, and so in the information that you have, it is 330-139. I'm sorry, that took place after the FOIA.
Is the wording exactly the
It
same?
is exactly the
Okay.
same, it's just a codification, so the numbers changed, and I just wanted them to be able to find what
Makes
you're
perfect
referencing.
sense. Thank you.
Got it. Okay. Is there anyone else that has anything to say?
Hi, I'm Cindy Rutano, the owner of Family Fence, and this is actually the first time I've really had any notice of what Mr. Stoudemire was complaining about, so other than that I have a business there. Number one, Ken and I, prior to purchasing the property, checked with both the county and the city to make sure we could continue using that as a non-conforming use. We were told at that point in time that we could prior to us bidding on and purchasing the property. When we purchased it from College Street Baptist Church, I believe even Mr. Stoudemire put in a bid on the property. We had the winning bid. One of the agreements we made with the church that we did not have to, at the time we purchased the property and did the closing on the property, we allowed the church 6 more months of storing their bus, their props, their other equipment, including some washers and dryers and other miscellaneous things and some tools and things of that nature in that building.
And this was in 2017?
Yes, ma'am. They used the house, used the building from the time of closing up until later the following, it was 6 months, a little over 6 months that they still had stuff there. Matter of fact, we had to keep, once the time frame was up, we had to continually talk to them about, hey, there's still this there, do you want it? You know, what are you going to do? So they had some gentlemen from the church that came over there and started taking things out. One even took our light, started trying to take our light fixtures, took all of our light bulbs out of the ceiling and started taking the light fixtures, saying, oh, these belong to the church, they didn't convey with the building. One of the other gentlemen that, actually the gentleman that was trying to take that did take the light bulbs and tried to take the fixtures, made a complaint at that time about us going to use it for a business. Which actually, when he made the bid, from what I understand, he was going to use it for a non-conforming use also. But anyway, they came and talked to us. I came over and talked to the then building inspector, which was different from the one we had talked to the prior year, and gave him information about, come over to the property. He came over to the property. I gave him information about people at the church that were involved in the sale and who had been there moving things out in April and May. Moving. So it was used continually. Matter of fact, the bus was still parked there up until April. Yes, they had bought other property. The reason they wanted to sell that property was they needed the money to make some of the improvements to the property they bought over on South College Street. And we were nice enough, because they were like, we need the money to make these improvements, but we also have to have a place to put the buses and the stuff that we're taking out. Can you help us out with that? And that's when we made the agreement to let them go ahead and keep stuff there. We used the outside for that period of time and let them keep their stuff on the inside. So there was I know that the gentleman that came to see us came and looked at the building. He had at the then fire marshal with him. They came and looked at the building, looked at the property and stuff at the time that complaint was made. And they said that it was non-conforming use. I don't know if you know how a fence is built, but the way we build fences is they're not built in our yard. Our materials there, we take it to a customer's yard. We bam in poles, or drill holes and put poles in, depending on what kind of fence. If it's a wood fence, we put a pole 4x4 in the ground, we put 2x4s up, then we put the fence boards up on the customer's property, not at our yard. Now, I do know that there was a lot of construction because there were 3 houses built just down the road, and so there was a lot of construction going on. So I heard a lot of sawing and nailing and stuff too, just like I did when Mr. Stoudemire's house was being built. If anyone wants, I can bring up the hard drive up. I have cameras around the building because people, unfortunately, have been on the property and stolen from us that will show you the guys don't get there until somewhere between 8 and 8:30 in the morning. They load up the truck, they get in the truck, they leave. They're not back until 2:33, 4 o'clock in the afternoon. They park the truck, they get in their trucks, and they leave. The only time, I do have them sometimes mow the yard, move material around, but that, even the church, their bus lights used to come in my bedroom when they'd come back to park the truck at 9, 10 o'clock at night. There's actually less noise now than there would be if it was in a conforming use as a family home. You'd hear children possibly out there playing and stuff. I know I hear the neighbors' kids that are catty corner behind us in a little trailer. I hear them when I'm outside. But we're not doing anything. We're storing materials. Dog Watch by Family Fence is a part of Family Fence. It is Family Fence. We have to call it Dog Watch because we have the dealership for it. And so they require us to have a website that says Dog Watch in it. And so, and Google makes us, have, so that we can have it, a Facebook page and stuff. We have Family Fence, and, you know, it's everything, the fence companies ran from the house. Used to, before buying the property, we're grandfathered in on that, okay? Before we had the property, when we got a material truck, an 18-wheeler truck, backed all the way down Pine Street, and we unloaded in front of our house and Ralph Burrell's, in the middle of the street. Now, that went on for years. We don't have to do that anymore because the truck can come into our yard, we unload the truck, and the truck turns around in our yard and goes back down the street, and away they go. And it takes less time, it's less problems for the neighbors, and we keep the yard clean. I mean, I believe that the now commissioner has come over to the property and seen that it's not dirty. I keep it up. And truthfully, I mean, I've been a nervous wreck about this because I try and be a good neighbor. I mean, I've let people, when they've done work on Pine Street, come through my driveway that I've made a drive that goes all the way back to that building, my home's driveway, back to that building, because we have a gate that goes out on Kelly Street so that people could actually leave their home when there's construction and stuff going on Pine Street. And I've left my gates open to my business, to where my store, where I've got equipment that's expensive and shiny things, as my late husband used to call them, stored in my yard. And people like shiny things and they steal them. But I do that because when they do work on Pine Street, there was one time we did it because there was a sinkhole that Ken and I brought to the city's attention where there was a break in the line down by the, fire hydrant that had caused a sinkhole. Well, they had to tear the road up there. And if you're at the far end of Pine Street where the Burrells and Chapman and some of the Kellys live, you can't get off Pine Street when they were working there. The only way they could get in and out and had ingress and egress was through using my driveway and Kelly Drive, my gate going out to that. I mean, I try to be a good neighbor. We're using it, I mean, and truthfully, when it's non-conforming use, we're using it for the same thing the church and stuff did. We haven't, I mean, I checked at one point in time, I thought about putting a bathroom down there. The only water that goes to that property comes from my house, which has been that way even when the church had it. We supplied them water. I mean, I don't know what else to do. We've used it continually. The church used it even after I owned the property. They still had it. And the original gentleman that went out talked to the members from the church, and I think Mr. Stoudemire knows it. He knows that they're members of College Street Baptist Church. They know that I allowed the church to use the property. So I ask, I mean, we've relied on the original ruling back at that time. Mr. Stoudemire lived in his home at that time and didn't complain. His son built a house, and I heard it being built, and he's the one who's now complaining. So, I mean, I would argue that our reliance on the original ruling is correct and shouldn't be changed. And two, I mean, if he thinks it's a nuisance, he came to the nuisance. And in law, you can't build your house next to a pig farm and then complain about the smell to shut down the pig farm. So I would ask that the commission actually go ahead and affirm the original ruling that we are able to continue to use that property to store our materials and equipment for Family Fence. And by the way, the dog watch units are in the house, and the dog watch truck is actually parked at 328 North Pine Street. It's a red truck with a trailer behind it. The only things down at the other thing are, I've got 2 skid steers down there, and I have 2 fence trucks down there. I have a 3rd fence truck, and it's in the shop. I only run one crew right now. But like I said, I can bring up, and you can watch, I think it holds 6 weeks worth of video that shows what time my guys get there, what time they leave, and how much noise they're making and what they're doing. It shows the yard and inside of the shop. So I'm sorry. If there's anything I can do to make it better for Mr. Stoudemire, I will. but I think I should be able to continue the use of the property for the reason that I purchased it, after relying on, prior to purchase and after purchase, the commission's findings on it. So thank you. I apologize if I took too long.
No, thank you. Celia, so one comment, that Ms. Rotano made, said that someone had visited the property. Was that either, was that back in 2018, or have you or Brandon been out there with Paramount Commercial recently to confirm that it's not fence manufacturing on the property and it's storage? Was that a
Both. Mr. Fletcher did visit the site according to his notes in 2018, and I have done several spot checks during, just unannounced various times, anywhere between 8:30 and 5:30, just because that's when I'm at the office. So at least once in the morning, a couple times in the afternoon. The 3 times that I went out there in the afternoon, I did not see anyone, and the one time I went out in the morning, I did not see anyone, but it was just a quick drive-by, pull down to Kelly, and then turn back around in the neighboring drive.
Okay. And the written statement from the previous zoning administrator at the city, that was found on your property, on city property, correct? Like in the office?
It was in the back file room.
Okay. So it wasn't provided from someone else. That was found, in the files at City Hall.
Correct.
I want to speak to the issue.
We have one more for public comment. We may have to do a quick, we do have one more public comment since it's still in public hearing, but we may also have to do a quick, recess because it is showing that our time is almost up on the Zoom call, but we
Okay.
can keep moving if you'd like, or we can go ahead and try to remedy this right now.
If someone, well, let's see. Yeah, let's go ahead before the next public. That way if he gets, in the middle of speaking and it goes over, we're not disconnected.
So we're gonna make a motion that it'll take 5 minutes.
Make a
Less
motion,
than
we
5
go
minutes.
take a 5-minute recess.
Second motion for recess. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, motion passes unanimously. We will reconvene in 5 minutes.
I'm terribly sorry. I have the free version, so it was only good for 40 minutes. Let me add another one. If you need to take a break, now's a great time, and we will keep right on going.
Is there any place to get a sip of water, or can I just go out to my car and get one?
Let's see. We do not have an actual water fountain, but I can get you a
No, that's
cup.
okay. I can go to.
I can get you a cup, and I'll get you some water if you'd
Well,
like.
it'll only take me a second to run out to the car.
All right. So this is today.
Okay, is, everybody's there?
Yes.
Ready?
We'll vote to reopen.
Move to reopen.
Second.
All right, so we have a, vote to reopen, all, in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, passes unanimously to reopen, and we have another public comment.
Mr. Julian Stoudemire.
I don't think it's gonna fall.
I am Julian Stoudemire, and I owned 8.616 acres at that property and sold approximately 1.4 acres to my son Blair, who built a house. And I own the property at 401 North Church Street, and it runs back to along the back border to Kelly Drive. In October of 1988, when we were breaking ground for the house that I constructed or had constructed on the property, Mr. Leonard Kelly, who was for which Kelly Drive was named, Mr. Leonard Kelly made sure that I understood that day that I couldn't use Kelly Drive. He came over there to tell me that that was a private road. Whether it is or isn't, I don't care. But at some time thereafter, we constructed our home, and College Street built a College Street Baptist Church built a what I want to call a pole barn on the property, and it was to store their church bus. And for years, from 1989 for about 10 years to 1999, we could see the College Street Baptist Church bus coming in late at night. George Tishner would take the whole crowd and go to Atlanta to the baseball games, and he would bring it back and forth, and we would see it all the time coming back in. From about 1999 on, I never heard anything, never saw anything from the College Street Baptist Church bus. They had purchased property from Catherine Hughes that actually the Hughes property ran from South College Street, running east, ran back all the way to South Catherine Street, and that property was approximately an acre, and Catherine sold about half of it to College Street Baptist Church in the late 90s. The property that Blair was talking about was sold from Catherine's heirs to College Street Church about 2005, 2006. But during that time, we never heard anything from the bus, that they parked it generally over on the property at College Street Church once they got that property and owned it. I never heard one thing, one peep from College Street, didn't know anything about them until this property was sold, and I didn't even know it was sold. And I complained in 2018. Now, I don't know where Ms. Rotano gets that I was a bidder on that property or wanted that property, but that's absolutely, factually untrue. That I did not want that property, didn't bid on it. I can tell you that I complained in 2018 because when you are asleep in the bed, now that I'm retired, at 8 o'clock in the morning, it sounds like, I'd say, at least a bulldozer moving something back and forth, and then you'll hear clanging and hammering, and Blair has a video of it now that I'd like to play. Blair? the video, this is what we are putting up with on a weekly basis. And I've got the video. Oh, yeah, here. And you might need to show it to them, Blair, because they can't hear it from this. But it's constant beating of metal, and it doesn't look like it's trying to put some wooden post on a truck to get out to a job site. It's bang, 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 and then bulldozers running, or whatever it is running, there's machinery running, and it'll run for an hour or so and then quit. And then we may go for another day or two, and it'll come back, and it'll do it the same thing. And College Street was using that property to store the bus, and whenever it was sold, then they have used that property in furtherance of a business which is conducting business on a lot that was designed for residential purposes only. Now, if you look up the tax records, you will find that Family Fence Company at 328 North Pine is listed as the property. It's Kenneth Rotano Family Fence Company, and the tax rate that he's paid $286 in taxes last year as a family home with apparently some sort of homestead exemption. And the property, 135, is used as property for this pole barn and whatever's going on there, and the taxes was used there as a corporate rate of 6% instead of 3%. And it appears that the entire time College Street had the thing, they never used it for anything like what's going on now, and what's going on now is what's causing the problem. And that I believe and will always believe that it's been used for business purposes and is in violation of the zoning ordinance. And we'll make the video available to the zoning hearing and appeals board for them to look at it, because they can hear it and see it much better than I can, and putting it to that microphone, which does not really magnify it.
If I may, can I ask a question? Does the video show anything that's going on? Or is it just sound? Because like I said, there's been construction all through that neighborhood. There's 3 brand new
It's
houses.
sound, and it's metal, and it's machinery moving, and it's bang, 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 all the time.
There's no one there.
Okay. Celia, is there anyone else there who has anything that they're wanting to say?
Everyone has been allowed to speak once.
Okay.
I've got a question for Ms. Myers. Did you find the order, I'll call it, from Mr. Fletcher after you sent the order to Mr. Tano?
The letter,
Yes.
yes, I was unaware that there had been a previous complaint. Once I was made aware of it, I needed to go looking for something. Been here about 4 months. We've done a lot of moving and shaking. I can take you back to our file room to explain why I might have missed something. But once we knew that we were supposed to be looking for something, we did find the file. And based on what I found in this, which was very similar to the conversation that she had with me, it did appear as if the city had granted her approval, and therefore I needed to honor that approval.
But Mr. Johns, I will attest about anything or heard anything from my complaints, and it was on more than one occasion that I made the complaints. But all of that from Mr. Fletcher, never given to us at all.
Ms. Marvell?
I'm reading through, so, determination by administrative official and enforcement authority. Alright, the Walhalla Code states that these should be filed within 10 days.
If you're speaking for us, you may need to speak up. If you're talking to yourself, that's fine.
So reading back through some of the notes on the 10-day window, just to see, because of the statement that was just made about, not ever getting a, so, am I understanding correct that Mr. Sademeyer made a complaint in 2018?
I can't hear her.
Okay, let's get this. So, the file for appeal was after the 10-day window from Ms. Meyer's written response. Okay, so in 2018 was the original complaint made by Mr. Stoudemire. Following that complaint, that is when the zoning administrator, Judy Fletcher, at that time had gone out. He stated that this was a non-conforming use, which we knew it was non-conforming prior to the, zoning ordinance, but then it was grandfathered in originally on the North Pine Street property. Then they purchased in 2018 this new property and extended, that is when, zoning administrator Fletcher extended the non-conforming use onto the newly purchased property. Am I
They purchased it in 17, and then in 18, he gave approval.
okay?
Actually,
We have a statement
it's in
from
writing at
Tom-
that point. Prior to that, we had verbal.
Okay. And then we've got a statement also in 2018 from a College Street representative who said that the storage, that it had been used as storage for many, many years after the fact of the sale of the property. College Street continued to use the property for storage, and now you're using it for fence storage. The family fence company. And has there, I just wanna confirm, there's never been a discontinuation, for a period of 365 days from storage? It's been storage and there's never been a 365-day gap in the, non-conforming use.
I cannot confirm, we'll have to rely on statements of others.
Okay, Mr. Rotano, according to what I'm
I can't
following
hear.
on Powell,
I heard my name, but I can't hear.
okay, is that any better? I'm trying to be as loud as I can.
What was that?
So my question was, when you purchased this property in 2017, it was storage prior to that time. College Street continued to use the property for storage after you purchased it in 2017. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am. They used it for storage. It was their bus barn. They also had props. They used to build their props and stuff for the Christmas plays and things like that. They used to build all that inside that building, and that was also stored there. It wasn't just the buses. There was also 2 washers and 2 dryers that were stored there when we got the property. And like I said, there was Easter props, Christmas props, folding chairs, folding tables. I mean, it took them a long time to get the stuff out of there. And like I said, they still parked the bus there for 6 months after we used it. I mean, after we closed on it. But that was at our agreement. And, Tim Merrill was the attorney he's also a member of College Street Baptist Church. So, I mean, he was aware of that.
Okay, so where, I'm trying to understand and just, and to confirm, so the letter was found that was issued by, zoning administrator Fletcher in 2018, stating that, the non-conforming use, that had been extended onto the new property. The property was storage prior to your purchase, you purchased, they continued to use it as storage. After you purchased, then their storage was moved off the property. When it was moved off of the property, approximately how long was it not storage?
It non-conform, from my understanding, it was non-conforming use because it's residential since the day that the property was, my understanding, was deeded by two people, and I thought Mr. Stoudemire was one of them, I could be wrong. I was told this by the church, by people at the church, the deacons that I was working with at the time of the property sale. We checked with the city and the county prior to purchasing the property to make sure we could continue using it for the non-conforming use.
Okay.
And then there wasn't, and I was told it was someone else that made the complaint, other than Mr. Stoudemire. When the church was asked, you know, their time frame was up, and they were supposed to be getting their stuff out of the building, and we were gonna take over, we were taking over the building. Someone, from my understanding, it was a different gentleman, but that's neither here nor there, made the complaint, and that's when Mr. Fletcher came and did his investigation, spoke to one of the deacons, and, then that's when, during that period is when he wrote his letter, I guess. But that occurred at the time that we finally were able to, the church finally got their stuff out.
Okay, and so I guess I'm gonna reword what I'm trying to get at. In section 700.1 of what I'm looking at, I believe Celia had said in the notes of the packet, it was referenced to the 300, but it's, regardless, it's the same information. On A, it says, if a use which is a non-conforming use is discontinued for a period of 365 days, the non-conforming uses exceptions shall expire, and the non-conforming use may not thereafter be resumed. So my question is, when College Street moved their stuff off the property, they are no longer using that property for storage. How long did you go before it was storage for yourself or for your company?
We
How
actually moved our stuff in. We had stuff on the outside prior to them moving their stuff out of the inside. So there wasn't even one day that it missed being non-conforming use. And there definitely was not 365 days.
Okay, thank you. Celia, I've got a question. So if, back to the whole manufacturing, so the non-conforming approval was given previously for the use of the storage. If it's deemed that, more than storage is going on, the manufacturing of fencing or something outside of storage use, can that then be revisited by the Stoudemires or appealed, to show that it's non-storage?
If it changes from the use of storage, then it can be deemed as an expansion or a change in use.
Okay, alright, so a they would need to, if they could prove that there was a, modification or expansion of the non-conforming use beyond storage, then they could appeal the, non-conforming use at a later time.
I think that's what they're doing now.
But there's not, okay, alright. Okay, I'm good with, understanding.
Can I say one thing, just that I don't think it deals with the facts necessarily, just procedurally? That, Ms. Barnwell, I just wanna make sure that we understand, this is Blair Stoudemire speaking again. I just wanna make sure that we understand timeframe wise, when it looks like to me, when the initial complaint was made in 2018,
that I think, as my father stated, a decision was made by the city at that time. He was never furnished with a copy of that decision or notified that a decision was made at that time. So no appeal could have been had at that time because, quite honestly, we didn't know that a decision had been made in any way, shape, or form at that time. When I complained, wait a minute, hold on, just let me finish, and then I have no problem with you addressing it. When I made my complaint, I was making a complaint, quite honestly, as a new complaint, because I didn't know that any decision had been made in 2018. The only way I found out that a decision was made in 2018 is when I received notice from the zoning director that she was going back and looking at the decision from 2018. But even then, it looks like in the file that I was furnished, it doesn't look like the previous zoning director. There's nothing in that file to show any notice was ever mailed to anyone. The only letter I see is one that was sent to Ms. Rotano. There's nothing on it that reflects that any copy was ever sent to anyone else that I see.
Okay, thank you, Blair. I've got a question because I could not see the video that was played. In that video, does it show anything that anyone was able to see other than the storage? Was there anything beyond storage happening? Was it dark and noise, or?
I don't know what was said.
Repeat your question, Ms. Barnwell.
Can you say that one more time? I don't think either
Yeah.
Ms. Rotano or I heard you.
Okay, so in the video that was played, what I'm trying to understand is if it is purely storage, then there has not been a lapse beyond that 365 days of it already being a non-conforming usage that was approved. So if you can show, I'm trying to understand what was on the video.
Right.
If that showed the manufacturing or something beyond storage happening. So can you maybe describe the video?
Sure, and I'm happy to go ahead and email a copy of that to y'all in case y'all wanted to look at it. There honestly is not much to show. Basically, it's a video done that was from our yard. We didn't go onto Ms. Rotano's property, didn't feel like that was proper. So it's a video done on our property, but it's more for sound. There are some trees and other really brush at this point dividing the back of her property and the back of my property, and you don't really see through that to see what is going on. I can tell you that the video was made March 1st, and I think I could be wrong. I'd have to see when the houses were finished, but I think that those houses were finished being constructed a little bit before that time.
No, the third one just got finished.
Okay.
It just got finished,
But-
3 or 4 weeks ago.
Okay, but the hammering that we're hearing is coming from that right side where Ms. Rotano, where that storage building is. It's coming from over there. You can hear the hammering, and it is definitely metal on metal. It's not metal on wood or the hammering of nails. I mean, I think we all know the difference with what that sounds like. And again, I'm happy to furnish that to y'all so y'all can hear it and review it much better than I can describe it. And I of course, I've got no problem giving Ms. Rotano a copy of that either.
The thing of it is when we load a truck up, you're gonna hear metal bounce against each other. We're talking metal poles. We have to put them on the truck. We have to load them. It's not a completely silent thing. And so storage, even the church had to pick their things up to take them from the storage building to the church to use them and then bring them back. I mean, even when you're using something for storage and you're continuing that, you have to be able, I mean, it does no good to just store stuff on it if you're not using it. I mean, what we're doing is taking material from there and taking it to a customer's job. We're not manufacturing on our property. We're loading a truck up, we're receiving a truck, and we're loading a truck. And like I said, if the commission would like, I mean, I can have my son download the video, and you can watch multiple days worth of video from our cameras showing when vehicles are there and when they're not. I mean, that's the best I can do. I mean, cause we're not manufacturing there, we manufacture on the customer's property.
So, Mr. Rotano, to understand what you just said, you have video on your property, like a time lapse of a day or two that we could see that would show what's going on back there?
Yes,
Okay. Is that something that, and about how long would it take you to be able to get that? A couple days or a week? You think you can furnish that?
my son is the one who does that for me, cause, that's what he's some sort of engineer thing. Anyway, he's the one who knows how to, put that on a flash drive, cause we've actually had to do it for the police before. So it would probably, be sometime next week before he could come over and, download that onto a flash drive for me.
Celia, are we, able to just, to, potentially table this and then have an opportunity to look at that and then vote on it at the next meeting?
If the board would like to defer vote so they can gather more information, then it would just take a motion and a second and approval, but you have that discretion.
Board, is there a motion to do that, or would you prefer to vote?
I make a motion we defer to receive more information.
I second the motion.
Okay, so we have, all those in, well, we have a motion to table for more information, seconded by Frank, and all those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, and, those opposed? Okay, so that motion passes unanimously, and we will, table this for, Mr. Tano to gather that information, as well as give an opportunity for, the Stoudemire's to gather anything else that they want to provide, and then we will, vote on this, I guess at the next meeting. Celia, is that how you want to do that?
There is one thing I wanted to address. When Mr. Stoudemire made his complaint, it wasn't to Mr. Fletcher. He made it, and I never heard about that complaint. Who did you make, Timothy somebody?
No, I made it to Brent Taylor, who was the city administrator at the time.
I don't have a clue who that is, or what period of time
He was Brandon's predecessor.
He would have given it to Daniel Fletcher, and that's probably,
Yeah, but he didn't make the complaint to Daniel.
I think Brent Taylor was city.
I made it to the city
So
administrator.
I mean, I don't know how, the only one I know about is that one. And I was told it was a different gentleman from the church. I mean, there again, like I said, they also told me that Mr. Stoudemire had bid on it, so I don't have a clue.
okay. All right, so let's move on to, the next item on the agenda, which, looks like old business. Celia, is there any old business that we need to discuss?
We have no old business on the agenda.
All right, moving on to the next. And, so public comment, was there anybody else there that needs to speak on anything, or have we covered that totally? Non-agenda items, public comment? Okay,
I don't believe so.
all right. And then you've got for us other business, 2023 meeting schedule revision.
Yes, there was discussion about moving our meetings to monthly instead of every other month, just because we have started seeing an uptick in items for you to see, and that's a little bit of a wait. But I know there was also discussion about changing the day, so I know we don't have a full body here tonight, but if the three of you would like to move to make these monthly or to set a different day, it would be great if we could do that. That would also help out with knowing, when our next meeting would be.
Okay, and so to understand that properly, so we would go ahead and schedule monthly, but if there's nothing for us to vote on, then we just would not meet. But we could also change that to maybe a Monday or Tuesday, if that works better for schedules.
Can y'all do Monday or Tuesday?
Most weeks, yes.
Most weeks? The second Monday is already taken, and the first and third Tuesdays are already taken. So would you prefer maybe second
I'm
Third
flexible, but I can be, you can pick a date if you want.
Second Tuesday works for me.
Does that work for you, Ms. Bubble?
So the city's already meeting on some of the, on 2 Tuesdays already, but only on 1 Monday?
They meet on the first and third.
First and third Tuesday, okay. And for your schedule, are Mondays, would that work better, so you're not there every Tuesday?
Um, it doesn't matter. I'm gonna be here in the evening one way or the other, so I'm fine.
Okay. If, and it sounded like Kenny and Frank were okay with whatever. I know Mondays typically, well, Mondays and Tuesdays are okay with us.
I'll send out a poll so we can keep moving. It looks as if the time's about to go out again, so we may just need to defer, anything else.
Okay.